salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our 5th episode. And this time we're going to speak about something very special, a dynasty which is extremely important and long-lasting, the dynasty of the Abbasids. I'm Dr. Stafkaris, and I would like to take you back to our Islamic past, to Islamic empires and dynasties. And we started with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We moved on to the Umayyads and to other dynasties as well. We have now come to take a look at the Abbasids. The Abbasids were actually the longer lasting dynasty and longer than the Umayyads, and played a very important role for various reasons actually. And we're going to look quickly into some of these reasons and into the significance of this big dynasty, Islamic dynasty. First of all, they claim descendants of the Prophet's uncle Al-Abbas ibn al-Muttalib, and that's why they call themselves Abbasids. The way they took power over, this is something very important that we have to mention, and we do have some people taking sides rather for the period of time of the Umayyads and others rather for the period of time of the Abbasids. We should rather look at them with their own rights. I mean, the Umayyads did not have, it was 90 to 100 years that they ruled. They did not have that much time to develop. There were not that many rulers, as many as the rulers of the Abbasids, who were around 50. So they had several centuries to develop also their rule, and to change also, and to admit their mistakes, and to do a lot of things that, to admit also a lot of things that they made mistakes. The Umayyads did not have this chance. That's the one thing. On the other hand, again, the Umayyads in their short period of time managed to get up to Spain, managed to get up to Europe, and in the west and in the east, even into Asia, places such as India and other places as well, China and so on. So we see that, and that's what the Abbasids inherited from the Umayyads. So they inherited a massive empire, which the Umayyad Empire stretched in the west up to Europe, in the east up to Asia, all the way to India and China. The Abbasids managed still to... This video is sponsored by the Muqaddimah program. For nearly 7 centuries, Ibn Khaldun's Muqaddimah has been read and studied by scholars and students of history, sociology, politics and economics as the single most authoritative and astounding work of classical scholarship in the field of history. Embark on an enlightening educational venture led by Muslim scholars and teachers delving into Islamic history, sociology, economics and beyond. Engage with cutting-edge learning cues and multimedia components, allowing for a deeper understanding of the topics. Distinguish between the lies and the truths of the narratives told, between reliable and unreliable sources. Equip yourself with the skills to conduct deep research and build confidence to combat Islamophobia. Come and strengthen your Muslim identity today. Grab the course in the video description. Expand the Islamic empire and to make it prosperous and wealthy, but we are talking about especially the beginning of the Abbasid empire and the Abbasid rule, which was after 750. So as soon as this massacre of the Umayyads happened between 749 and 750, the very first Umayyad prince to leave and to escape this massacre was Abdul Rahman, who became the emir of al-Andalus. Okay, and he fled to al-Andalus in 756, where he established an emirate. That created a hostility actually between two big Muslim empires at the time. The Umayyads, who now only remained in al-Andalus, in Spain and in Portugal, so in the Iberian Peninsula, against the Abbasids, who obviously were the rulers from Baghdad, by the way. The Umayyads were ruling from Damascus before, whereas the Abbasids moved their capital towards Baghdad. And from there on, they did a lot of things that are absolutely interesting and amazing to see. The Abbasids had a strong influence initially, first from the Persians, from the Persian culture, then later from the Turkic people as well, and Turkic culture. So we see that the Abbasids basically inherited a lot from other cultures and from other civilizations as well. They transferred the capital, as I mentioned before, from Damascus, which was the capital of the Umayyads, to first Kufa, which is a city in Iraq, to Baghdad in the year 762. The empire, the Abbasid Empire, was actually, you can clearly say, a fusion between Arabic, Persian, and other cultures. Later also some Turkic elements were there they could be found. Why all this happened? This is very important to mention before we start judging people and dynasties and empires. It is like this, that the Umayyads did discriminate against non-Arabs, and they had the Arabic element, they pushed it too far up. And the Arabization as well as the imposition of Arabic was very strong during the time of the Umayyads. And they discriminated against non-Arabs and discriminated against other people as well. So that's something that the Abbasids did not want to take, and they felt discriminated against themselves, actually, their own dynasty and their own people. So they wanted justice. It's a good thing to want justice, but the way you take justice is very important to see also. You cannot just take justice with killing other Muslims and other people just because they belong to another dynasty. And that's what happened. The massacre was nothing else but bloodshed. Every caliph of the Abbasids carried a specific title called laqab. Okay? So, and we will see that inshallah with some of these caliphs. As I said before, more than 50 caliphs were present during the time of the Abbasid Empire and did a lot towards the development of Islam as well during the upcoming centuries. Certain scholars divide the Abbasid Empire into 2 periods and others into 3. Now, if we take the opinion that there were 3 different periods, then we can clearly say that the first period was the beginning, 750, up to 945. Okay, that was the first period of Abbasid rule. During that time, the first Caliph As-Saffah takes over, and what develops then is the so-called mihna that developed during that time was the time of the idea and the ideology of the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila was an ideology which was inspired heavily by ancient Greek classics and sources. So they believed in logic rather than in the Quran and in Allah's word, which does not mean that we as Muslims don't believe in logic, but it means that if you cannot explain something with logic, they say, then it's unexplainable and it cannot be explained with anything else. They believed that the Quran is not Allah's word, but it was created. And many things happened actually that are unacceptable for us as Muslims as well. And this is something we're going to look into, inshallah. And again, we will take a deeper look into details into the Abbasid rule during our course that we offer, Islamic Empires and Dynasties, and we're going to look into them inshallah. If you take a look on our website, you will see what we offer as well and go deeper into details into different empires and dynasties as well. So important also to see is not only the Mu'tazila period, which was a very important period in the 9th century, but early in the 8th century actually, with the taking over of the throne, we see that the ones who were actually ruling were the wazirs. The wazirs were of Persian origin, okay, the Barmakids as they were called, Barmakid family, and they were the ones actually controlling the power of the Abbasids in the 8th century, so at the beginning of the rule of the Abbasids. And these Barmakids had so much power actually that they were ruling the empire until Harun al Rashid, who came later and then the beginning of the 9th century, got rid of them basically. If we look at the development then is the development of the Mihna. Although we're talking about the golden age of the Abbasid Empire, we see also development of the House of Wisdom, for example, the translation movement, so that ancient Greek sources and other important sources are translated into Arabic and in other languages and are, for that reason, have remained behind, and we can still make use of them, mashallah. Another very important development is in 751, the Battle of Talas, where Abbasid soldiers, army, went together with Tibetans against Chinese. The Chinese dynasty, which, if I remember correct, was the Tang Dynasty during that time in 751, and they had a victory over the Chinese Tang Dynasty. A very important point, because that opened also the possibility to spread Islam further into Asia, Central Asia. The Abbasids had, from the very beginning, actually, to deal with, first of all, the revolts, that happened within their own empire, splitting groups that split off the Abbasids, such as the Abbasids, for example, in Tunisia or in North Africa in general. Then the very first group that actually split off the Abbasid Empire was in Morocco, the Idrisids. So Idris was another person who fled, such as Abdul Rahman fled to Spain, to al-Andalus. Idris fled to Morocco and established his own dynasty there. He was a Shiite, by the way, and it was a Shiite dynasty that was established, an Arab Shiite dynasty in Morocco in 788. That was the time when the first Arab dynasty developed in Al-Maghrib, in Morocco, basically. So it split off the Abbasid rule from Baghdad. Whereas the Umayyads were ruling in al-Andalus, they just remained stable there. Furthermore, there were problems with the Swahili coast. You can also clearly see there the development of people splitting off the Abbasid Empire. In Asia, people splitting off the Abbasid Empire and having issues, giving the Abbasids actually headaches. The revolts that happened during the time of the Abbasids in a number of parts of the Abbasid Empire, from Egypt to Arabia to Iran, what is nowadays Iran, to Persia, to the Kilwa Sultanate, for example, the Swahili coast, battles against the Byzantines, that some of them were victorious, some others not. All this, of course, affected the position that the Abbasids had in the Muslim world, and they always had to compete against the Umayyads in al-Andalus. Harun al Rashid, now, as we all know him, he destroyed the powers of the Barmakids, as I mentioned before. The Muʿtazila ideology came up during the 9th century and was then given up after a while, although it did affect other dynasties as well and played an important role. Now, during the time of the Abbasids, also the Mamluks developed, which was a state within a state. They were the ones in Egypt ruling. They were actually a Turkic slave dynasty that developed later and became actually the next rulers under the Abbasids. But that happened much later. So, as we mentioned, the first period. Now, the second period, as it moves on, the Abbasid Empire, is after the 10th century until 1258. 1258, what happens then? Something very important, the destruction of Baghdad. That was the end, basically, of the Abbasid Empire. You can say that was the time when the Mongols attacked Baghdad. The Mongols in the 13th century attacked the whole world and were actually established as an empire that was never seen before. And they destroyed Baghdad in 1258 and destroyed the Abbasid Empire. What happened then in the third period, 1261, the Abbasid gained power in Mamluk Egypt, and it was the Mamluks basically ruling under Abbasid rule, more or less, subhanAllah. So that would be the third period, until in the 16th century, the Ottomans take power over, and they are the ones who had actually taken power earlier, but officially in the 16th century, we see that the Ottomans become the last sultanate and caliphate of the Muslim world. Again, if you want more details, more information, if you want us to go deeper into each empire, want to know more about it, please take a look at our website, register for our course that is coming up very soon. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For almost 7 centuries, the Muqaddimah has been widely regarded as the earliest and most authoritative and seminal text in the fields of sociology and history, outlining the core principles and methods needed to evaluate and convey history with a more objective and critical eye. Its celebrated author, Ibn Khaldun, pioneered a revolutionary approach to the study of history and is considered by some historians to be one of the most influential thinkers in his field. Now, for the very first time, students of Islamic history will have the rare and unique opportunity to study this monumental and classical work of genius under the tutelage and guidance of experts in the field of research and education. We offer a wide and varied range of learning experiences as part of the program, with options for students to participate in person during our on-site lessons in London or remotely via our private and secured live streaming platform. Classes are delivered on a fortnightly basis, and all students enrolling onto the program shall receive a complete learning resource pack, including coursebooks, timetables, and admission onto the online student portal. The annual program is available to students as a certificate or a diploma package, with varying subjects and module components, as well as a practical assessment unit that will culminate in the launch of student-led history projects and publications, following a panel presentation before a group of assessors. This is a unique opportunity to discover and immerse yourself into the world of Islamic historiography under the tutelage and guidance of experts who will assist you in acquiring the core skills and competencies necessary to conduct your own research and launch your own initiatives. To find out more about the Muqaddimah program or to enlist yourself onto this unique and fantastic learning journey, please visit our website at www.almuqaddimah.com, where you will be able to download our program prospectus, register your interest by submitting an application directly via the online enrollment form.